We're staged for another run of nitro-fueled NHRA talk. It's The Straight Line, presented by O'Reilly Auto Parts, with Marty Huff and 10-time NHRA winner Doug Herbert. Brought to you by Hercules Tires. Now, here are your hosts, Doug and Marty.
This is The Straight Line on drag racing. Thanks for stopping by our half-hour of horsepower. Appreciate you being with us. He is the fastest driver in NHRA history, and today we talk to our good friend Clay Millican about driving a fast hot rod, competing this weekend, Texas Motorplex. We're in the beams and set to launch another edition of The Straight Line. Wherever you may be, coast to coast and around the world, this is The Straight Line on drag racing at MRN.com, along with four-time IHRA Top Fuel champion, 10-time NHRA National Event winner, Doug Herbert. I am Marty Huff, and a week ago, we were up here, and it was the guy to my right's 50th birthday. I couldn't say anything about it because there was a sneak attack, a surprise 50th birthday party for you. So I belated happy 50th birthday now here on The Straight Line.
Marty was in on the snookering, like, oh, you've got to get out of here really quick. I know you've got something to go do. And I went and actually had a meeting with Felix. Felix and I had a meeting with some folks, and then he snookered me until right at the end. Anyway, it was a great surprise birthday party. Mimi did. I don't know how she pulled it off. I mean, she had 60 of my best friends at the house, and I was really surprised. I'm sure you noticed.
Yeah. He walks out, and everybody's gives him the old surprise, and there's flashes going off, and I
was like, wow. So, anyways, it was fun, and I don't feel a day over 40.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. No, 50. I feel great. I'm happy, excited, and ready to go drag racing or whatever kind of racing we're doing. We're ready to do it.
Hey, we want to know your opinion about what you're seeing on MRN.com. So if you go to MRN.com, which you are right now, and MRN/survey. Take a quick survey about what you're seeing, and we want to know what your opinion is about the different variety of motorsports that we provide for you here on MRN.com. So go MRN.com/survey. It takes a couple minutes to complete, and for your time and your efforts, we've got a beautiful hero card that we can send to you for your efforts. Coming up today, we will talk to Clay Millican here on the program, but in some of the news during the week, we learned that Alexis DeJoria is going to retire after Pomona, and it's kind of a bittersweet thing. We've loved seeing Alexis at the racetrack, a great racer, a great personality, and the sport is going to be lesser with her absence.
Well, I think Alexis, for one thing, is she says what's on her mind. She's a good she's a good spokesperson for the NHRA. She's not John Force. She's kind of got her own people, and she's she's a really neat person. I've known her for years. I've liked her for a long time. She's just a neat person. So that will be a tremendous loss. Comes right on the heel of finding out that we're going to lose Alan Johnson in pro stock. So we've got Alan Johnson going. We've got Alexis going. Man, I'll tell you what, that's pretty sad. I don't know all the reasons behind Alexis' departure. She had that concussion earlier in the year. That may have had something to play with it. Yeah. She had some other personal issues which caused her to be out miss some races. It's hard to say, but man, I think it's a loss for NHRA. And not to mention Colada Motorsports. I don't know. Is there still going to be a Patron car? They haven't said anything about that. I mean, I would assume she's the Patron car. When she's gone, that won't be there anymore. But we don't know. Maybe that's not the case. Yeah, and
so we're going to effort having Alexis on the show. We tried to get her on today's show. Obviously, with it's basically her home race. She lives in the Austin area, and being close to Dallas, that's going to be her home race. So obviously, it's going to be a really busy week for her. But before we get to the end of the year, we will have Alexis on and talk about her retirement and moving on after 2017. Also, some really disappointing news, but something we knew that was coming, Doug, was NHRA announced just after we got off, of course, just after we got off the air last week, that at 9 events next year, Pro Stock Fields will be down to only 8 cars. That may be a good news, bad news scenario. I'm not sure, but it really gives you a real good look at the state of Pro Stock right now in NHRA.
Well, I think it's tough. I think what is going to be the contributing factor to decide where Pro Stock goes is what's the factory support. You know, Mopar was obviously Alan Johnson. They were a lot of support. They're out. Ford is not involved with Pro Stock, where Bob Glidden for years they were. So now they're not. And you know, now we have GM, but it's kind of like a one manufacturer class. That's not really what Pro Stock is all about. No. So, you know, it's sad to say. I mean, I'm a fan of the technology of Pro Stock. I'm not necessarily a fan of watching Pro Stock cars run. Unfortunately, I think they're a little boring right now. The way they run, they don't pull the front end. They go straight down the track. If they get at least a bit out of shape, they lift off the gas. And I think, you know, NHRA is about a show. Right, you think back at the old days, Grumpy's Toy and Bill Glidden and Lee Shepard and all these guys. I mean, it was pulling the front end and cars squirrely all around, and they don't do that anymore. And I think the Pro Stock guys have to realize, hey, it's a show. You know, they did that burnout contest trying to kind of get the excitement, and I don't know this for a fact, but I understand there was some moaning, you know, from the Pro Stock guys saying, oh, you know, we shouldn't have to do that. Well, they're not having to. It was a voluntarily thing, but you know, I don't know. I hate to say it, but I think there needs to be more show put back in the Pro Stock. I think they need to do that funny car and Top Fuel Dragster burnout. That would be cool. Hey, you know what? They say, well, they'll run out of fuel, whatever. Build a bigger fuel tank. I guarantee you, John Force, if they offered him a chance to go win that, he'd figure out. He would tell Mike Neff or whoever, Proc, whatever. They could figure out how to get those cars to do a long burnout. It wouldn't be that big a problem. No. They'd go test a couple times. They would figure it right out, and fans would love that. Fans miss the old days of the big burnouts. I hate to say it. Yeah. It's a show, right? People are going to the drag races to see a show. Well, we need to put on a show for them, or they're not going to go.
Every once in a while, a
that
driver.
Was my rant.
But I'll agree with you. Every once in a while, a driver will just feel like maybe the tires are a little bit cold, and they'll do a longer burnout. It happens every once in a while. And what happens when that happens?
Crowd goes crazy.
The crowd goes nuts. Crowd goes crazy. They're up and standing and cheering and hooting and hollering. If NHRA needs to make a rule about having a bigger fuel cell, okay, so be it. I don't think it would be that big of a deal. But putting on a show would be a good thing for.
Well, it's a show basically. NHRA drag racing is entertainment, right? It's
correct.
NASCAR, Barnum and Bailey Circus, whatever. It's entertainment, and you've got to put on a show. You've got to make the fans happy and excited about coming to pay the money to watch the show, or to watch a show on TV, or to come to the show in person. I mean, drag racing is a real life in-person thing. It's okay watching on TV, but I think it's not so great watching on TV unless you've been there in person and you understand.
You have to know. Yeah.
All these things that are going on. There's a lot of things going on in an NHRA drag race.
No question. Houston, Topeka, Epping, Englishtown, Bristol, the entire Western Swing, Denver, Sonoma, Seattle, and Brainerd will be 8-car fields for Pro Stock next year. When we return, we will talk to the fastest man in NHRA history. Clay Millican will join us next.
If your vehicle is riding rough, it may be time for new shocks or struts. Right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, buy a combination of 2 or 4 select Monroe or Rancho shocks and struts and get up to an $80 Visa gift card by mail. Improve your ride with Monroe or Rancho shocks and struts at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Race fans, visit Camping World of Concord for convenient one-stop shopping on outdoor accessories, top brand RVs, and quality service. Buy an RV and enroll in the Good Sam Elite loyalty program, offering incentives valued at over $2,000. Browse over 10,000 Camping World products and accessories in America's largest RV dealer network. Plus, shop the top manufacturers such as Coleman, Keystone, Newmar, Thor Motor Coach, Winnebago, and many more. America's #1 RV dealer has something for everyone. Visit Camping World of Concord today. See dealer for full details and disclaimers.
Welcome to beautiful Phoenix Raceway. We're just moments from the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series semifinal. But all eyes are on one man, the people's champion, Dale Earnhardt Jr.
That 88 is on a mission.
The semifinal. The farewell.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. Take a bow.
The Can-Am 500, November 10th through the 12th. Guarantee your seats now at PhoenixRaceway.com.
Welcome back to The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here's more with Marty Huff and Doug Herbert.
Appreciate you being with us this afternoon here on The Straight Line. And joining us on the guest line right now is the driver of the Parts Plus Great Clips UNOH Top Fuel Dragster for Stringer Performance. Clay Millican joins us. Clay's headed to Dallas as we speak. Clay, where do we find you?
I am on I-30. Let me see. I'm 120 miles from the racetrack, so I have no idea where I'm at other than I'm in Texas.
Gotcha.
Well, I know, sometimes you drive across Texas for 2 days.
Yeah, boy.
Thank goodness this is not too bad for us. I mean, I think it's like, 9 hours or something. We left at 8 o'clock this morning, which is bright and early for me, and Donna drove for the first. She drives the morning shift because I'm not a morning person, and then by the time 10 or 11 rolls around, I'm kind of awake, and I'm behind the wheel, got the crew set, and looking forward to talking to you guys.
Well, don't let us distract you driving down the road now. We know, you.
I am hands-free driving, brother, as we speak.
Okay, well, keep focused, That's what we talk about at the brakes class, right? You're 100% focused on driving that top fuel dragster, and you need to be 100% focused on driving your truck and trailer, too.
That's a fact. That is a fact. And I literally, just a moment ago, we stopped and got fuel, and I really wanted to give some driving lessons to a lady that saw me trying to back up, and she didn't want to back up.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, come on, lady, I've got a 45-foot trailer behind me here, and I need to back up 10 feet. And I was getting the evil eye. It's amazing, what you see out on the roads.
Yeah.
But I love it. I do.
Hey, Clay, how many races do you and Donna drive yourself to? It's quite a few.
It is quite a few. I think it's right at 10 races, maybe a couple more. Pretty much if you draw a 12-hour circle around Memphis, we drive to all of those, and that covers a lot of races. I mean, we could figure it up real quick, but it'd kind of be burning up our time. But, Charlotte twice, Atlanta, Topeka, Dallas, Houston, Englishtown, St. Louis,
Bristol,
Norwalk. So quite a few. I mean, we put a lot of miles on the truck, and, we enjoy it. I mean, we really do, because we bring our camper trailer with us, and we just get to park. And when I'm done at the race trailer, basically go to my house on wheels, and it's fun. It's just kind of a great way for her and I to spend a lot of time together, and it's awesome. I mean, we've always talked about it, and then, once the kids are grown, it's like, hey, let's just do this, We've thought about a motorhome thing a time or two, but we like having, a truck and trailer. When we get there, we unhook, and if I want to go play golf or she wants to go shopping or whatever, it's pretty convenient way to do it.
Hey, Clay, what we want to talk about right now is your number one qualifier last weekend at St. Louis and making the best run of all time. That was pretty exciting.
That was an amazing run, and I wasn't exactly like Babe Ruth, but I did call my shot that week. I mean, leading up to Reading, I said I think we could set the national record, and looked at the weather, and like, nah, it's not going to happen, because Reading was unusually warm. And we did some media stuff leading up to St. Louis, and I told everybody, we're going to set the national record Friday night. And of course it was the ET record. Our car doesn't run big speed, and that's not what wins races. Everybody talks about, speed. But I have to say I am excited that I think the funny cars are going to go 340 before the year's over with. But back to St. Louis, I mean, I knew that our car was capable of running the national record. And after our first qualifying run, which was the number one qualifying run at the time, I was getting out of my fire suit, and I told Grubby, I said, I think we can set the record tonight. And he is just working away like a madman on the computer, and he turns and looks at me, and he says, are there points for that? And I said, no, not anymore. And he's like, I don't care, mate. You know, all I want is those bonus points. He's like, I just want those bonus points. You know, whatever we got to be low ET. But I really enjoyed. I watched some of the television coverage, and watching him smile after that run was pretty freaking awesome. You know, he wants those points, but it was pretty cool for him and everybody involved with our team, you know, to go out there and make the quickest run of all time. And Doug, you'll like this. So we're racing the monster car, Brittany, and I don't know, you know, they had a little something going on, and there was no staging battle. I don't want you to think that, but they took a little extra amount of time to tell her to go in and turn the top bulb on, because I didn't sit there with the top bulb on either, but I'm thinking, man, you know, something's either going on with them trying to set the wheelie bar on my car, or something's going on in the other lane. But anyway, it took a little bit longer than normal. And so when I stood on the gas, thing picks the front end up, and top fuel cars don't really do that much anymore. And it immediately made a move to the right. And I'm like, all right, you know, it's not like crazy high or nothing. I don't want y'all to think that, but I knew what we were trying to do. I knew we were trying to run low ET, and I was hoping that it would be the national record. But so it makes a pretty good move to the right, sets the front end down, and I'm like, hey, it's still got traction. Just leave it alone. You know, don't jerk the wheel back. Don't upset the car. And when it got past the shake spot, which, you know, for these things are 150 to 300 feet, I knew it was off and running. And I will admit, you know, we're 100% focused on driving these top fuel cars like we talk about in the brake school. But I did look up at that scoreboard, and I thought, I think it said 63. You know, I'm like, it could have been a 68, but it sure felt quicker than a 68, you know. And so it was pretty exciting. You know, it really was. I mean, for our team, you know, we're a small single-car team. You know, our shop is in Doug's backyard. I mean, Doug Stringer's house is right in front of our shop, and we got two little metal buildings we work out of. And, you know, the kids that put this thing together, they do an amazing job. And obviously, you know, Grubby's talents are now out there for the world to see. You know, we've known it for a while now, how good he is, and now everybody else is figuring it out.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, and you and I talked about this. When you go to the starting line, it doesn't matter how many things you have back in the trailer, because everybody's only got one, you know. When you go to the starting line, and I'll tell you what, it seems to me like your group with David Grubnick, obviously, they're making the best of those parts that are going to the starting line with you.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, you know, I will have to say, though, and I agree, you're 100% right. When we're on the starting line, we've all got the same amount of parts. It's what's bolted on that car. But I know Grubby has to, you know, also think about how hard do I push this thing, because we've got limited amount of parts at the trailer, you know, so he kind of has to have that in the back of his mind. And I do as a driver as well. You know, there are times where, you know, you might shut the car off because you know it put a hole out or whatever. Now, I'm not saying that ever happens on race day, because all bets are off, and we all know that. And Doug, you've been there, done that, where you go, well, I've only got, you know, 3 or 4 motors in the trailer. This race day, it doesn't matter. We got to get to the finish line. But I am just totally impressed with everything that David Grubnick's done. I mean, it's no tune-up of anybody else's that he's massaging. I mean, it is his. The tune-up programs we use are his. He built them from scratch. I mean, he's a computer wizard. You know, a lot of people just think of him as a driver that's just been around these things. But, I mean, Doug, you've been around him a lot. I mean, you've been around him a whole lot. I mean, the guy's brilliant. You know, he's very computer savvy. He's very smart, and he does not do things the way everybody else always does them.
Well, I about had him talked into going to work for me years ago, and then Coletta came in and offered him a ride to drive. So it was like, shoot, I lost him. Because Dave actually, and I'm sure you know this, he used to be my driver on, you know, if we were testing or whatever, and I had to go back to work, Dave was always the guy that hopped in my car and drove it. And then everybody, of course, would give me grief because he was weighed a little bit less than me, and so they, oh, well, the car runs better with Grubnick driving. So then I told Grubnick, I go, here's the deal, you can't run it to the finish line, you got to shut it off early.
One thing for sure, you could have never had me come in there and test drive
Nope.
for you because I couldn't reach the pedals.
Nope. Nope. That is a fact. We'll take a quick break here on the straight line. When we return, we'll have more with Clay Millican in just a minute.
A dead battery can leave you stranded, so get yours tested for free during Superstart Battery Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Need a replacement? Purchase a Superstart Extreme or Superstart Platinum battery and get up to $25 in O'Reilly gift cards after a mail-in rebate. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Live sports are the one true reality entertainment, where a single dramatic moment can become timeless. In NASCAR, Motor Racing Network's live broadcast elevates your senses to the sights, sounds, and struggles taking place on the racetrack.
Keselowski to the bottom of the racetrack. He tries to slide up. Newman is there. Sideways is Keselowski.
The power of radio to the imagination of the listener. Tune in to the Motor Racing Network. Visit MRN.com for an affiliate list in your local area.
Online and on the air, MRN is live from the track on MRN.com and the MRN app. Check out all MRN race broadcasts, pole qualifying and practices, plus exclusive motorsports programming live on your computer or mobile device. Or go to MRN.com to find your local radio station's online stream. Don't miss a second of NASCAR racing action. Listen live online at MRN.com, the MRN app, or your local station.
It's The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Now, once again, here's Doug and Marty.
Thanks for hanging out with us here on MRN.com and The Straight Line. And Clay Millican rejoins us. He's headed to Texas Motorplex for this weekend's NHRA Nationals at Dallas, Texas. Clay, how has Texas Motorplex treated you in the past?
You know, I've loved going to the Motorplex. I mean, you know, it's the original super track, Billy Meyer. You know, I can't believe this place is 30 years old now, right? But I still love going there. And I'm sitting here yakking and trying to remember what I've done there. Now, honestly, I'm the world's worst at stats and what I've done, so I don't remember. I do remember this. Last year on Friday night, we were on pace to have a huge, huge run, and it broke. So we didn't get the run in, and Antron Brown was running along beside us on that qualifying run, and he qualified number one, and he came right over to me. He's like, Clay, I don't know where you were going, but you were getting there in a hurry. You know?
Yeah.
But, we didn't complete the run, and I had hopes that, maybe this Friday night we could maybe go out there and set the record again, but looked at the weather. It's going to be in the 90s, and we actually run early on Friday. So, our focus will be to collect those bonus points and try to be really consistent on Sunday and turn on 4 wind lights, because Stevie and Doug Coletta done got out there in front of everybody. And, we're not to the point where they got to lose first round, but it sure wouldn't hurt nothing.
Yeah. Fact.
Hey, Clay, what happened? Seems like, I don't know, back last year sometimes you guys, that car just stepped up and, you got to where you can run with anybody. And now, obviously, the last few races, you've been number one qualifier, been low ET a bunch of times. Like, it's really, there's no coming up racing you. It is no gimme because you can throw down the run to beat anybody at any time.
Well, I mean, it's just grubby. He's more and more got his hands around what he's trying to do with the race car. And he's just starting to really dial in a handful of things that he's doing, and he's just kind of got it right now. I mean, you've been there. It's funny how, all of a sudden things that you've been working on, trying to make work, they start to work. And it's so fun driving the car, knowing, I don't care who's in the other lane, we can outrun them. I mean, it's so fun. I haven't felt like this, since my IHRA days when, you go to the starting line, doesn't matter who's over there. It's like, I can beat them, and I know we will, and I kind of got that feel right now. We probably have lacked a little consistency on Sunday, but it's just coming together. I mean, it really, really is. And I fully expect to win a race or two before this 3 races that we have left are over with, because I know our car is capable of doing that.
Hey, Clay, a couple of days ago on Twitter, you were wishing your mom a happy birthday. And by all rights and by the grace of God, she's still on this earth celebrating birthdays. But I don't think a lot of people know that story. Can you tell the people that may not know
your mom's story about that and how she's still here?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, my mom and dad run a little bitty grocery store in Drummond's, and a guy walked in. She's known him his whole life. She's known him since he was born, but she was on the other side of the counter sitting at the desk, and this guy walked in, and she spoke to him. She turned her head. She was actually writing a check, and he shot her, like in the temple, right in the head, shot her in the temple. And amazingly enough, it didn't kill her. Obviously it hurt her a little bit, but it knocked her out briefly. She woke up, and the guy wasn't robbing the store or anything like that. A lot of people thought it was robbery. It wasn't. I mean, he was mentally challenged, I guess is the way to put it, in today's PC world, but, and she literally grabbed a broom and ran him out of the store, blood going everywhere and all that, so yeah, my mama's bulletproof, it's crazy. That was 14 years ago,
Wow.
It's hard for me to believe that. And she spent one night in the hospital, and her only concern was that I leave to go to the race in Dallas. I mean, so that was just crazy that's been 14 years ago. And I did leave and go to the race in Dallas. And I got a quick story if y'all got time for it. So I didn't know how to handle that. And I don't mean emotionally, obviously it was scary emotionally, but I'm like, do I tell people this happened? Because this was, before the days of social media and all the things we have now. And I'm like, I don't really know what I should do. Do you tell people or not? So I went and saw John Force, and I told him what happened to Mama. I'm like, she's fine. She's already home. But would you tell people? And he looks at me, he says, boy, if my mama got shot in the head and she's still living and kicking, I'm telling the world what a bad woman she is. He used another word there.
Yeah.
He said, I would be telling the world. And, so, yeah, I mean, I'm proud of the fact that, Mama's still here kicking. I mean, and literally she had a birthday just a day or so after that happened, but the only thing that's happened from that is the bullet is actually still in her head. They thought it would do more damage to remove it. And she lost some teeth. The trauma from the bullet going in just in front of her ear, she lost some of her teeth. But, I mean, if you think about that, you get shot in the head, you lose a few teeth, and you have trouble going through the TSA line at the airport. That's it.
Oh, wow. Well, I'll tell you what, a lot of people, including me, said prayers for her, and I am so glad that she's here. What a sweet lady. Super. Hey, Clay, going to these last three races, you kind of said what your plan is. You got to go out there and win one or two of them. What is there any different strategy than you've been taking? I mean, you've been right there to win the races, the last mini races. But what happened at second round over there at St. Louis? I mean, you guys were running really good, and then second round did a part break, or was it just a track thing?
It spun the tires. We looked at that run, looked at it, and and Grubby's the one that has the final decision on all this, but we kind of get together as a group and decide what we're going to do. But we think we made a mistake choosing to be the first pair out second round. But traditionally over the last few years that this team's been together, we've liked being the first car out, being right on top of the glue, because the safety safari does a great job prepping the racetrack. So we chose first pair. We went out, we spun the tires. Couple cars behind us spun the tires, basically the same place. And then the last pair of cars, or two, they swapped lanes. That lane was the preferred lane in round one, the right lane, and that's what we chose in round two. And then by the end of round two, it became the left lane, So is there anything we would have set up differently? We probably would have chose second pair or back and left lane, But as far as, the rest of the year, I mean, since I got beat on that crazy big hole shot in Indy, where Kevin Kinsley went 0-13, which is kind of out of this world kind of reaction time. Grubby said, we're not leaving nothing on the table, because we went 375 first round at Indy, and he said, Clay, I could have went 370 and you wouldn't have lost. I had a 70 light, which is, kind of where you should be, kind of, sort of. And, I got beat to a guy that went 0-13. And so since then, he said, if the car will run 370, we're running 370, and so we're just going to keep maintaining that. And that, we may not be first pair come second round on Sunday this week, though.
Yeah. Well, Clay Millican, thanks for joining us. Clay Millican, my buddy and driver of the Parts Plus, Great Clips, Top Fuel Dragster. We appreciate your time, buddy, and good luck this weekend at Dallas. Go down there and get another win in the big hat, belt buckle, or whatever they give down there for that.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. I always love being on the show, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Absolutely. Clay Millican joining us on the Straight Line. And when we return, we'll wrap up another great edition of the show.
Citywide to countryside, whatever you drive, wherever you go. Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there, no matter where the road takes you. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
You're listening to The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Now, back to Marty Huff and Doug Herbert.
Big thanks to Clay Millican for joining us on the Straight Line. And as we, let's take a look at the Top Fuel standings as we head into the the Texas Motorplex at Dallas this weekend. See that Steve Torrence is at the top of the heap, and down around fifth is Clay Millican at 141 back. I'm not sure if Clay's got a legitimate
I think he does. I did a little bit of homework on my own, and I made my cutoff line. I think right now in Top Fuel, Leah Pritchett, she's as far back as it goes with any legitimate shot at all of winning the championship. In Funny Car, I go back to number 5, Jack Beckman.
Yeah.
Pro Stock, my line goes down, cuts off with Drew Skillman. And in Pro Stock Motorcycle, goes down to 7th place with Matt Smith.
Yeah.
So in Top Fuel, I mean, Steve Torrance, Doug Coletta, obviously they have the best shot at it. Brittany Force could do something. Antron Brown. I mean, you can't tune any of those guys out.
No.
But, it's really Steve and Doug's to lose.
Yeah.
If they, basically, if you lose first round and you win between the losing first round and winning the race is an 80-point difference. So Steve Torrance, Doug Coletta have a pretty firm grip on Top Fuel. Ron Katz, Robert Height have a pretty firm grip on Funny Car, I'd say. And, Pro Stock, really Greg Anderson, Bo Butner.
Yeah, it's a 3-horse race. The only monkey wrench that gets thrown into that whole deal is 1.5 points at Pomona.
That's true.
Teams that were not really in a position to win a championship possibly now could get some help at Pomona. So these are things that you kind of have to take into play, and so we'll be keeping a close eye on the points when we leave the Texas Motorplex this weekend. We'll have the winners from that race next week here on the Straight Line. So for everybody involved, including Doug, I am Marty. We will talk to you next week here on the Straight Line.
You've been listening to The Straight Line, presented by O'Reilly Auto Parts. The Straight Line is the show for drag racing fans and was brought to you by Hercules Tires. Tune in again next Thursday on MRN.com and the MRN app. The Straight Line is also available on demand in MRN.com's Media Center, on our Facebook page, on YouTube, and in iTunes or the Google Play Store. The Straight Line is a production of the Motor Racing Network.